It all started because I needed money. I'd been out of work for a few months. Nothing dramatic, just one of those long, drawn-out transitions where every promising lead either ghosted me or fizzled out before the second interview. Savings were running dry. The rent was looming. My pride had already taken a few hits, and I was running out of time to be picky. So I started rummaging through job boards and recruiting sites, looking for something, anything, that would tide me over. I wasn't aiming high, just something easy, temporary, low stakes. An office job where I could collect a paycheck while I figured out my next real move. That's how I found this place. A quiet, nondescript office in a concrete building on the edge of the city. The posting said data entry, admin support, no experience required, casual environment, steady hours, health benefits after 90 days. I applied on a Wednesday, interviewed Thursday, and started the following Monday. It seemed like a lucky break. The jar became a communal gathering spot, a brief respite from the monotony of spreadsheets and meetings. People stopped by Marla's desk more often. Laughter became easier. For a while, the office even felt lighter. But over time, something changed. I began to notice subtle shifts in my own behavior. I'd find myself making excuses to pass by Marla's desk, even when I had no reason to be on that side of the office. The candies became a fixation. I'd think about them during meetings, crave them during my commute, and even dream about their rich, complex flavors. Others seemed affected too. Colleagues who once ignored the jar now hovered around it, their eyes glazed or hands trembling slightly as they selected their treats. Conversations became more strained, laughter more forced. The office atmosphere grew tense, as if an invisible weight pressed down on us all. It wasn't just stress, it was something else. One evening, working late, I noticed Marla refilling the jar. She moved with deliberate precision, her eyes scanning the room to ensure she was alone. Curiosity piqued, I approached her. "Late night?" I asked. She jumped, clearly startled, then quickly composed herself. "Just topping off the jar," she replied, forcing a smile. I glanced at the packaging of the candies. No brand names, just elegant wrappers with foreign scripts. "Where do you get these?" I inquired. Her smile faltered. "A specialty shop," she said vaguely, then hurried away, leaving behind a faint, earthy scent I hadn't noticed before. The next day, Marla was absent. No one knew why. Her desk sat empty, the candy jar conspicuously full. I resisted the urge to take a piece, but by midday, the craving became unbearable. I selected a chocolate, unwrapped it, and let it melt on my tongue. The flavor was indescribable, sweet, bitter, earthy, with a hint of something metallic. Almost immediately, a wave of euphoria washed over me, followed by a deep sense of unease. My vision blurred, and I felt as if I were being watched. I stumbled to the restroom, splashed water on my face, and stared at my reflection. My pupils were dilated, my skin pale. I felt like I was unraveling. Determined to understand what was happening, I took a candy to a lab for analysis. The results were baffling. The confection contained trace amounts of psychoactive compounds, including THC and other obscure mind-altering plant materials. More disturbingly, human DNA was detected in the sample. The lab technician looked at me with concern. "Where did you get this?" he asked. I lied, saying it was a gift. That night I couldn't sleep. My mind raced, filled with images of the candy jar, Marla's forced smile, and the vacant stares of my coworkers. I sat up in bed, flipping through late-night TV in a daze, hoping to distract myself. That's when I saw it. A local news station aired a breaking report. A body had been found in a warehouse on the outskirts of town. Mutilated, bone shattered, organs missing. The anchor referred to it as a suspected gang execution, though the police admitted the scene was unusual. The victim's face had been surgically removed, and what remained of the body showed signs of post-mortem harvesting. There were no suspects, no motive, just a lingering sense of calculated brutality. Something about the report struck me as familiar. The precision, the silence, the vacancy in the anchor's eyes as she read the teleprompter. I didn't know why, but I felt it in my gut. It was connected. I could almost see Marla's calm, unreadable face standing in that warehouse, clipboard in hand, while her and crew went about their task with factory floor efficiency. I turned off the TV and stared into the darkness. I could still taste the candy on my tongue. A few days later, another horrifying incident surfaced. One of our coworkers, quiet, unremarkable George from accounting had inexplicably committed a gruesome murder. He had bludgeoned a woman to death in her own home and surgically removed several of her organs. Authorities reported that the organs were traced to an underground transplant broker with ties to a hospital in China. What chilled me most was the footage. George looked eerily calm, robotic even, as he carried out the act. His face bore the same vacant, glazed expression I'd seen around the candy jar, like a puppet moving under someone else's control. I returned to the office after hours, intent on examining Marla's desk. Her drawers were locked, but a quick search yielded a spare key taped beneath her keyboard. Inside, I found invoices from a company I'd never heard of, written in a language I couldn't identify. There were also notes, pages filled with meticulous handwriting detailing the effects of the candies on various individuals, including names, dates, and behavioral observations. My name was among them. The notes described my increasing dependence on the sweets, my altered behavior, and even my dreams. I felt violated, exposed. There were also encrypted files buried in old shared drives, hidden folders with titles like behavioral yield logs, crew activation protocols, and harvest notes. These weren't just experiments. This was industrial-scale compliance programming, covert psychological conditioning distributed through addictive psychotropic confections. Then another headline appeared on the local news. This time it was a missing persons report. 3 homeless individuals from the same underpass vanished overnight, leaving behind only neatly folded blankets and a smear of blood. The footage showed detectives milling around under weak sodium lights, trying to piece together what had happened. Police claimed it was likely gang-related or drug-induced, but I recognized one of the homeless men. He used to loiter near our office building. Marla had once handed him a chocolate in a foil wrapper with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. A sudden noise startled me. I turned to see Marla standing in the doorway, her expression unreadable. "You shouldn't be here," she said calmly. I confronted her, demanding answers. She sighed, then gestured for me to sit. "The candies are part of a study," she explained. "We're researching the effects of certain compounds on human behavior." I was horrified. "Without our consent?" I asked. She nodded. "Consent would have skewed the results." I threatened to expose her, to go to the authorities. She smiled sadly. "No one will believe you," she said. "You've been consuming the candies for weeks. Your judgment is compromised." I left the office in a daze, unsure of what was real. I tried to warn my coworkers, but they dismissed my concerns, their eyes glazed, their smiles vacant. I contacted the authorities, but without concrete evidence they couldn't act. Marla continued her work. The candy jar remained ever full. The office descended further into a haze of compliance and contentment. I eventually quit, unable to bear the atmosphere any longer, but the cravings persisted. I'd find myself wandering near the office, hoping for a glimpse of the jar, a taste of the forbidden sweets. I knew they were dangerous, that they were altering my mind, but the desire was overwhelming. Even those who had left the company before me weren't truly free. We were all tethered by craving. I'd find myself pacing outside the building at night, staring at Marla's window, aching for a glimpse of her hand dipping into that jar. One night I saw another segment on the news. A rideshare driver had been found dead in the trunk of his car, organs removed, teeth shattered. The police again muttered about gang activity, but I saw it now. Every death bore the same mark: silent, clinical, controlled. These weren't crimes of passion, they were collections. I hated her. I needed her. We were all victims of the candy jar, ensnared by its sinister allure, our lives forever altered by a simple sweet temptation. And then, a knock at the door. It was late, well past midnight. I peered through the peephole and felt the blood drain from my face. A group of my former coworkers stood in the hallway, shoulder to shoulder, their expressions eerily vacant. Their eyes seemed empty, glassy, controlled, sinister. One of them, a woman from HR whose name I couldn't even remember anymore, stepped forward. "It's time," she said flatly. "You need to come join our activities." I didn't move. She tilted her head. "You weren't given a choice." Something cold and sharp twisted in my gut. I knew, deep down, that if I refused, something terrible would happen, something final. They stepped forward in unison, and I realized I had already crossed the threshold long ago. They escorted me without a word to a part of town I hadn't been to in years, an abandoned industrial zone rotting behind rusted fences and broken windows. At the end of a potholed street, stood a 5-story office building, skeletal and gray, its sign long gone but its aura unmistakable. I recognized it the moment I saw it. It used to be a car insurance call center, the kind of place that quietly tortured millions of people while they sat down to dinner. We entered through a side door. The interior was cold and dark, dust choking the air. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead like insects trapped in a jar. They took me to the 4th floor. Row after row of cubicles sat like forgotten tombstones. In one large open space, Marla stood waiting. 2 men were seated in the shadows behind her, their faces obscured by the dim, flickering light. Marla gave me that same practiced, pleasant smile. "You're here. Good." I tried to speak, but my throat was dry. My legs felt like rubber. One of the men slid a cardboard box across a nearby desk. Inside were about 1,000 wrapped candies. Marla handed me a clean, empty glass jar and a generic USB stick memory drive. "Put this on your desk at your new job," she said softly. "Keep it full. Wait for our instructions." I shook my head. "No," I said. "I'm not doing this." One of the zombie-like co-workers stepped forward and lifted his pant leg to reveal something metallic, a bone saw, quietly humming. Marla didn't even flinch. "Your choice," she said. "Take it or leave it. And oh, you'll be paid very well for your services, if you comply fully." I looked down at the jar, at the box, at the others. Then I knew I already belonged to them.